the best advice you could ever get is just start. It doesn't matter how bad you are at anything. And I'm not talking about just podcasting. It doesn't matter how bad you are. It doesn't matter how stupid you think you are. It doesn't matter how, I don't care how bad the boundary of entry is. If you just need to start and you just need to continue trying when you don't want to, right? Like that's how you become good. I'm not even talking about the best, just good, right? The best is just more trying, and it's just more advanced trying. It's just adapting and trying to learn more advanced, whatever. It's just trying at a different level. But I would argue that all success is just relative to trying at a different level, trying in a different way, just trying, right? That's what I think. I almost quit after the second episode, right? Because I felt like, I'm like, well, what's the point? Where is this going to go? And I got into this because I didn't know what it was like to, and I told you about this in my early childhood. I was like very bouncing back and forth between things. I never dedicated myself to something so full like that. So when I did that, to see it through to the end was like something really crazy to me. Like to see it through to where you can really do it, like after not accomplishing a lot of things, after not doing some things, if that makes sense, like after not seeing through, dedicating yourself fully to something to the end, it feels strange to try and convince yourself to see it through to the end. Right. And it did take a lot for me to see it through to the end, with podcasting and life, and everything. And I'm glad I did. And it's not even at the end. I mean, I'd argue this is just the beginning. But, with that being said, just trying will get you so much further than any all these people that are giving like all these really complicated hour-long advice videos.
No, it makes perfect sense. And there's a saying that if you're not willing to look like the fool, you'll never be able to get to see what it's like to be a master. And look, success is not linear. It's not for anybody. What people often see, you're not in the spotlight until you do well. So it seems like all of a sudden these, big time YouTubers, celebrities, successful business guys like this Hormozi guy, all these famous people. It's like, oh, they just came onto the scene. Well, you weren't there. Nobody records, nobody documents the journey. Nobody documents the time they've spent alone, doubting themselves, having this conversation, pushing through the hard times. Nobody's paying attention to you during the struggle. And that's just life. And so I think it's important that you say that so people understand, like all these people, they didn't just come out of nowhere. They've been in the trenches for a long time. And that's a spot you earn through that, through paying your dues, through failure. Success is not linear. It doesn't start here and make a straight line up. It's full of ebbs and flows and peaks and valleys. As long as a trend is steady going, let me try to go this way. As long as it's steady trending up, that's success. That's what the ascent looks like to success. It is not a straight line up. I promise you.
Absolutely. Agreed. 100%. And most people, when it comes to like success or, their lives or whatever they want to do with themselves, I think so many people are also afraid, but also not used to truly failing and having to stand back up. Right. So many people fall. Like we all know the story of like, the guy who was in high school and he was really good at football, and that's all he talks about from then on in his life. Why do those people exist? Well, just because, something happened. It's usually the same story of like, oh, well, I would have gone pro, except this happened with my knee, or, and they just give up. Right. And there's plenty of people that just give up, or they try for a little bit and they just give up. Right. Or they never try anything else. Right. And they rest on their laurels. Which is it's a tragedy. Like, again, and I'll keep on using that word. But another thing you mentioned too is about opinions. When it comes to like looking like a fool and stuff like that, I think so many people. Oh, this is a very hard lesson. Like, and this was a very hard pill for me to swallow. It's to understand that people don't think about you, right? Like, people don't think about you.
Nobody really cares that much.
Yes, right. I mean, sure. I hope your son thinks about you. I hope your wife thinks about you. I hope if your mother's still alive, I hope she thinks about you. If your dad's still alive, I hope he thinks about you. I hope of course, people like that will think about you. But the general this, maybe your best friend will think about you, on occasion as well. But most people don't think about you, even people that are close to you, right? Or at least you think are close to you, don't think about you all that much. And that's a sad lesson as well that people don't really learn. And that's one that trips people up a lot. It's this idea that, but what if this person doesn't like this, or what if this looks bad, or what if this doesn't, and so they never try. Again, like, most people are not thinking about this. Like, most people don't like those people. There's this meme where it's like, oh, me at like 3 o'clock in the morning thinking about that really embarrassing thing that I did in 6th grade. Chances are nobody remembers that. And even if they do, they would just be like, oh, that's funny. And then they go about the rest of their day. And, we could talk about, there's 2 great books. The Meditations by Marcus Aurelius.
Great book.
And
Great book.
yeah, agreed. And, of course, the Bible. And there's also Thoughts on Art and Life by Leonardo da Vinci, which is never talked about. But in it, Leonardo da Vinci talks about, because it's all very similar ideas, but in Thoughts on Art and Life by Leonardo da Vinci, there's actually a point where, because he talks about everything, it's just his diaries, right? That were, I guess, collected and published. And one of the sections in the diaries, think about the amount of princes and people that tried to make their jewelry and their treasures last forever and ever, and they tried to make themselves be remembered forever for their treasures and how amazing they were. And think about how many of them we don't even know the name of. Like, and so when you get to people that try to be remembered forever, and these people that try to do that do it for others, like, in that sense, right? They try to get other people to think about them. Marcus Aurelius's response when it comes to people like that, because so much of the book is about people's opinions, and like a lot of these very worldly attempts of power. And this is from the Emperor of Rome. So if there's a guy that knows about power or money or sex or fame, it's him, beyond anybody else, because he ruled the world, basically. So for him to be talking about this, it's trust the source. But he was talking about fame, and he said, listen, even if you were able to be, let's say, okay, so he breaks it down step by step, and he's a very logical thinker. And he goes, so number one, you will die. That's the first part. And people will slowly forget about you. And then let's say people do remember you and they pass your story down. Eventually those people will die. And eventually those people will die. And eventually those people die. Now let's say you're immortal and you get all those new people to remember you. Okay, so what? And let's say those people will eventually die. Now let's get those people to be immortal and think about you all the time. Then what? It doesn't really make a difference. And both of those books were awesome when it came to like that lesson. And I would highly recommend the Meditations and the Bible and that book, Thoughts on Art and Life, as well. Thoughts on Art and Life, not as much, because that's more of that's also a lot about like creativity and painting and why Leonardo da Vinci became a painter above anything else. But all those books are very good.
Great recommendations. And here's something I tell guys, that because I get clients I work with that struggle dating and socially, or struggling a little bit, or have been through something pretty catastrophic, where they come to me like broken men that are just lost. And when we talk about the idea of reintroducing themselves into the dating world, and these guys are so worried about rejection, because I tell them to walk up to an attractive woman that you see and start a conversation. Start there. And that cripples these men with anxiety. And one of their biggest concerns are, like, out in public, if people see him get shot down by this girl in public. And I say, dude, nobody's paying attention. Nobody's watching you. You think people are in the middle of the day going to stop and say, oh, look at that guy over there trying to get that girl's phone number. Let's everybody stop and watch, and turn your phones on and record so we can capture the moment he gets blown out by this girl. Nobody's paying attention to that. And doing it, and this is something my business mentor introduced to me, that really, and I knew this, but I've known about it, but I hadn't really internalized it. And you talked about the princes who wanted to push themselves out for prestige and power. And I would tell my mentor, my fears, my concerns. What if I don't do it? And he's like, Joe, shut the fuck up. I said, who said this is about you? Quit making it about yourself. What does it matter what you think or feel? You're not doing this for yourself. You're doing this to contribute. You're doing this to help people. Get out of your own way. And he said the same thing. He said, you think other people out there, coming onto your channel to make sure you don't do well? So nobody's that concerned about you. Get out of yourself. Get out of your own way. Do it because it needs to be done, because you have something to contribute and something to offer. Quit being so self-absorbed. And that was like a light bulb moment. It was an epiphany.